everybody. It's your boy Charlie Hustle, IAC Lifestyle, back with another episode of our podcast, Unapologetically Unfiltered. My co-host Candice, she's busy again, making moves of her own, so she will not be joining us today. But it's all good because I got my man Diego here from DAWn Audio is going to be joining us and go through some details, not only about his past and his involvement in the audio and the music world, but he's also going to give us some insights on a software that him and his team are building called DAWn Audio. I won't spoil it. I'll let him go into all that stuff. But Diego, you want to give us a quick introduction, real quick?
Yeah, sure. What's going on, y'all? Um, yeah, I'm a lifelong musician, drummer, turned music producer, turned more recently music tech CEO and co-founder with our team here. Um, Background in computational engineering, but really at its core, just super passionate about music and the creation process. So excited to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy man, but I think what you guys are building is huge, and so I think it's nice of you to join us and take some time out so we can try and get the word out and get some other people involved and just push what you guys are doing. I think it's a game changer, so I'm really happy to have you guys on. So let's go ahead and let's just jump right in. So, what is your background in audio slash music, and how long have you been involved in making music, in the audio side as a whole?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I started off with my background in music being very acoustic, I guess analog, like not digital and not recording side of things. Started playing drums when I was, I don't know, maybe 8. Before that was
Okay.
like played a little bit of guitar, played a little bit of piano. Really kind of just came up playing instruments. My dad would always be playing guitar in the living room. Got super involved through school, did everything from marching band to concert band to jazz band to like pit
Damn,
orchestra for
nice.
musicals. I just, again, just loved playing. And then about going on probably 6 years now. Like so I was raised in New Jersey, came down to New Orleans, obviously because of the music, but to go to
Yep.
Tulane. And while at Tulane, I came across this minor, music technology. Kind of that was really my first introduction into digital audio workstations,
Okay.
DAWs. Started messing around with Logic Pro and kind of just super quickly fell in love with that process. I mean, as a drummer, like being able to actually compose a full song without having to learn how to play all these different instruments
Oh
and
yeah,
make more sounds than just a stick banging on a drum was yeah,
for
it was
sure.
a whole new world. So yeah, that was a lot of my early introduction, and then now that's really a lot more of what I focus on. I haven't played drums in a couple years now, but
Okay.
do a ton of recording, production, mixing, stuff like that.
Okay. Very nice. So I know now you said you've been, basically around it your whole life, playing instruments your whole life. Your dad also, was involved in it. Is that it was seeing him kind of what sparked it? Because for most people, it's you either have one of two ways you can go about it. Mostly is like there's some involvement in your family, your household, or I know a lot of people are like, oh, I saw this fucking rock star who was playing his guitar and just killing it, and that's where my love fell. So for me, it was like my mom always had music playing. I grew up on a lot of R&B. My
Mm.
grandparents always had their records playing, so that's where my love for it came. So was it your dad and seeing him playing that kind of sparked that love for it, or where did it come from? At least you can remember.
Yeah, no, I've been reflecting a lot on this recently, and like that's the only place I can explain it. It's not like I was conscious of it at the moment.
Okay.
But again, it's like as long as I can remember, I was playing something. Like I
Yeah.
used to have one of those little they had those like little toy piano keyboards that like would come preloaded with like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and like
Yeah.
the notes would light up so you could like follow along and
Oh
play it. And
yeah.
like I remember like just stuff like that, or like my again, like whenever my dad would just like he was never someone, I get the sense, that was playing guitar to try to do it professionally in any sense his whole life, but was always just someone that if we were waiting to go out to lunch, if he was just in between meetings at home, like whatever, and he just had
Okay.
like 30 seconds, 5 minutes, half an hour, he would just pick up the guitar and start playing.
Nice.
And so I
Okay.
feel
Hell
like
yeah.
that was, yeah, it was just kind of, it was always there, it was always around. And I think a big part of it, and honestly this is true really in so many things in my life, but I think a big part of it was kind of, I just like stumbled into it without even really consciously
Mm,
being
okay.
intentional about it. Like, at school, got the chance to, because just, they would, in third grade, you could go and like try out these different instruments to decide
Yeah.
which one you wanted to play. Like, I just happened to end up picking drums, not
Okay.
really thinking too much about it, and then yeah, quickly fell in love with that. So
Very nice. So real quick, this is completely off subject, and well, not off subject, but it's definitely not, part of what. So yeah, you said in third grade, you have the instruments in school. Do you remember? Because I remember in like third or fourth grade, those fucking little recorders that they had. Did you ever
yo,
get those?
yeah. Yeah.
I used to drive my mom
Yes.
fucking nuts with those things, and then, like, once my kids went through that stage of elementary school, they had that, and I'm like, "I get it now. Now I know why my mom was always trying to rip my face off when I was
Right.
playing this damn thing." So that's too funny, and that when
Right.
you said that, that just sparked a memory for me, and it's just like, I remember those fucking things so distinctly, and I just
Yeah, no,
I
we
get it now.
it's funny, my housemate will talk about how he would like walk around like the halls in middle school just like playing that, and like yeah, it was like, I feel like that is like whoever started that, and I love that that's like across the country, just like
Yeah.
regardless of what state you're in. Like I feel like a core memory is that like every kid just gets one, like and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah,
and then
no,
what
that's
happens
hilarious.
to it? Your parents probably throw it away, or you fucking they break it, and oh, I don't know,
Right.
the dog got to it. I don't know what happened. That's too
Right,
funny.
right.
That's too funny. All right, well, let's get down into the real juicy stuff. So the software you guys are building, I'm a little familiar with it. I definitely need to get in and play with it some more, but I think just based off the conversations that we've had, what I've seen from it, I think it's a huge game changer, and I mean that wholeheartedly. And I think that you're really building something special and something unique that's going to be crucial, in the future. Now, obviously, but even in the future for collaborators, audio engineers, producers, artists as a whole. So it's called Dawn Audio. So I'll let you go ahead and just get into it and kind of explain the process of how it started, what you guys wanted to do initially with it, and all that good stuff. Kind of explain to the people what it is and what you're trying to get from it.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, a lot of it came out of my experience and frustration making music. I think being someone that came up playing drums and like playing live, I always kind of feed it off of, playing with other people and collaborating. So
Yeah.
even when I got into music production, it was like with a couple of friends, in college, we would just like all be messing around. And that was super cool because we were all kind of learning at the same time. So we were learning the same software, we were in the same room. It was this very kind of, collaborative experience.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, though, I was going to school in New Orleans. I then would go back home to New Jersey, and one of my really close friends, who also came up like playing saxophone, but then kind of got into music production literally around the same time I did by chance. He was using FL, so another one of these production tools.
Okay.
Um, and we would literally be sitting in the same room together, but because he was using, FL or one software and I was using Logic, this other software, we just couldn't work together.
Yeah.
So 5 feet apart from each other. I didn't want to learn how to use his tool. He didn't want to learn how to use my tool. And it was like, there's no way that there's no way for us to collaborate, right? Like there
Yeah.
has to be a better option, a better alternative. So we started trying out some of the tools, just kind of didn't really find one that fit. And so yeah, that was kind of the birth of the origin for this idea. Like I said, I had this technical background, computational background, and really what Dawn Audio is this tool, that bridges this compatibility between these different, they're called DAWs or digital audio workstations, right? So it's what it creates is an environment or an application where artists can log on, they can collaborate live and online, they can do it from wherever they're most comfortable, but also across whatever tools they prefer. So we're not
Okay.
setting out to replace the tools artists are using. We don't want to have another tool the artists need to pick up and learn. Our whole thing is we'll just sit beside the software that you're already using and make the collaboration easier, make it real
Nice.
time, make it live, make it feel like you're in the same room, but you're still operating in what in with that creative freedom to
Of
be
course.
working. So yeah, that was really a lot of the core kind of origin for it. Was yeah, just again really in its simplest form was I wanted to collaborate with my friend, and it's been cool because honestly for the past, I don't know, 6 8 months now, I've been able to do that through the app, so that's been, yeah, just kind of a huge milestone.
Very nice. That's so. No, I like that too because I'm and I didn't know what it. So I went to you know obviously that I went to school. I went to Crass,
Right.
and I didn't even know what a DAW was until a month before school started. And I was talking to my youngest brother who's an artist in New York, and I'm explaining to him what we're gonna get, and he's like, "What DAW are you gonna be using?" And I was like, "Hmm, that's a good question. Google, what is a DAW in music,
What is it,
right?"
though? Right.
and so and so I didn't really and even then it's like I knew what it was, on the surface, but I didn't know anything else. I didn't know Pro Tools was one. I didn't know Logic was one, Ableton, all these things. And so we get to school and they give us Logic first. And so I'm learning Logic and then we get to Pro Tools. And so for me, those are kind of like my go tos. I've tried to mess around in Ableton, tried to mess around in FL. And, they all have their similarities. They have, a few differences. But for me, just having the knowledge of Logic and Pro Tools, those are my go tos. So those are really what I use, depending on what I'm doing. And so I think it's nice that you'd be able to use Ableton, which is, your Logic, whichever one is yours of choice, and I can still be in mine of choice, which would be Pro Tools probably, and we can still collaborate. I think that's huge because would I like to learn Ableton at some point? Of course, I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I also don't have the patience or the time right now to, that's a conversation you had and I before we hit record with all the shit that we have
Right.
going on. At some point, I'd like to, but for now, I think this just makes it huge. And I think that this also, and I don't mean to jump the gun because you may have been getting to this too, but I think it takes away from or you may have even said it, the slower process of emailing back and forth and having to,
Right.
unzip the folder, listen to it, make your notes, do at least this way, we're on the same page in the same software. Then it's like, hey, that was cool. Let's do this, or can we maybe move this down here? Whatever the case is, I think that eliminates that process. And time wise, it just speeds up your workflow.
Yeah, and I think the there's obviously a huge time and for professionals money impact to that emailing back and forth, massive, gigabyte large projects or
Oh
audio
yeah,
stems and all these files, and then and the miscommunication that comes out of that. But I mean, really, at the biggest thing we've seen, even in using the app and seeing artists use the app too, is like this unquantifiable element of just the creativity that can come out of being able to do that live, right? So the biggest frustration and biggest pain point I think a lot of people have shared is like today, as you're putting it, if we want to be collaborating, even if we are using the same software but we're remote, or if we're not using the same software but we're in uh in different locations in the same room, whatever it is, if we're going to be working together, I need to fully lay out my idea. I need to then stop my creative process to export
yep,
this, to send it to you so that you can download it. And then once you listen to it, then you're able to, you can give me notes, you can give me feedback, you can add. That might take, best case scenario, like 5 minutes in that simple interaction. Worst case
yeah,
scenario, like I've sent, friends stuff and then I don't hear back for like 2 weeks, right? And so
yep,
like, but that the point is, like, a lot of times by the time I'm getting that feedback, by the time I'm getting the revision, whatever it is, like I'm on to the next thing. Like I'm not,
yeah,
like my creative workflow has kind of stopped. Like every time I need to, if I have ideas coming and flourishing and stuff, and I need to stop and now export it, send it, do all this, it's just breaking up that workflow. And
for sure.
yeah, that's really what we want to kind of remove is the core feeling is creative tools should be there to help facilitate your creativity, and these DAWs, these software do an amazing job at that for individuals.
Yeah.
They just don't do a great job at that when you're collaborating.
No, no, for sure. I agree 100%. And that's the thing too, is like I just told you I was working on a track with a friend of mine and he wanted me to come back and do some other stuff too. And it's like that whole thing too where even in the beginning when I sent it to him, cuz what I did was went in, I sang it. I can't sing, so I wanted him to sing on it. So I sent him all the vocals of me singing how I wanted it sung. And then it's like and he has his own stuff going on too, like so I can't, pressure the man to stop doing what he's doing
Right.
and make my stuff a priority because I want you to be featured on this song. And so I think having this makes it easier because then we can say, hey, let's block out some time today. Let's hop into the software and let's just go through it and make some notes and make some corrections and all this stuff. So then you eliminate that people may not make what you want a priority, you know what I mean? And so at least this way, It's like we're on the same page. We're both going to set aside an hour of our time and then knock this project out best we can. And at least we have that ball rolling there. So this way, when it does come time to get back to it, I don't have to wait any longer because the notes are there, edits are there, all that good stuff is already taken care of. And then from there, you can continue on as you were.
Right. No, exactly.
So I think you may have answered this next question, and if you did, we can move on. But it was what sparked your coming up with it, and I think basically in a nutshell, you said it was just the collaborative space right now in this realm isn't ideal. Is that
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And like the one thing I'll add maybe is outside of just obviously the core tools themselves, like I think like you put the larger space, we're by no means sitting. I mean, so this also started. I guess I can actually also add this context. This started as a class project actually initially. So I had no
okay?
intentions of turning this into a business, turning this into a startup. I kind of shared, like with the music, how it kind of just like my love for music kind of just I stumbled into it. I like this was very much the same way, right? Like I fully was someone that like growing up. It's funny, my dad would always be like in high school, like, "Yo, you should do freelance work, entrepreneurship, be your own boss, like look into that." And I was like, "Nah, I want a 9 to 5 where I know the paycheck I'm getting at the end of each week, and I'm not having to, look
Okay,
for my clients to like furthest thing from what I do now." And and so, but yeah, but at when I was in college, um started living this frustration, started developing this idea, and just got the opportunity to pitch it as a class project. So to graduate as an engineer, you needed to do a senior capstone project. I just happened to pitch the
okay,
pitch the idea. Honestly, didn't think it was something that was possible to do, but I was like, you know what? Here's this idea. Got a team together. We started building something. And then about halfway through the year, started getting advice from mentors and advisors and people that were like, "Yo, y'all should really consider doing this after you graduate." So yeah, I think a lot of what sparked it was again that initial frustration, but a lot of what gave the idea like legs was just kind of happening to be at a university in a city also where I'd gone through this incubator program through this nonprofit here called Idea Village. Just having it was that combination of like opportunity and like preparation, right? So it was like the
yeah.
preparation was like the frustration, the having lived it, the coming up with this idea, but then the opportunity was just like I happened to stumble into the infrastructure, resources, things to kind of really actually be able to explore it.
Okay, very nice. No, I think that's dope. And I think it's so funny too that you're like, it was just supposed to be a class project. We didn't intend for it to be this big. But I think that and that's the thing with me too, right? Is like if you create something that people can buy into, then you're literally onto something. Cause you know what I mean? And like what you guys have done is you've found a problem, created a solution, or in creating a solution. Obviously you're still in the works of it, but and I think people appreciate that, and so I think that's probably one of the reasons why people are like, no, this is something you should pursue because you've done just what needs to be done in creating something that solves a problem for people, and especially like musicians and creatives, we want our stuff ASAP, you know what I mean? And
Right, right.
so being able to collaborate in real time, I think takes a huge chunk of, again, like we discussed, that waiting game out, or people maybe not making other stuff a priority. And if people have their own lives, and I get it, I'm not trying to come up any type of way with that. But so I think you guys have done a huge job in taking a portion of that stuff out, and I think that's why people are so bought in and like, no, this is something that can be legit. And I agree too, and that's the reason why I'm got you on here today to discuss it, to get the word out, because I'm bought into, because I would much rather spend an hour or two with somebody, in the software, like, hey, let's make this work, than waiting, like you said. It could be 5 minutes, could be 2 weeks. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Um, so I think it's huge that you guys are doing this, and that it's blossomed to where you're at right now.
Yeah, no, no, definitely appreciate that. And yeah, it's been, I think that's, it's always the conversations with artists, with people that kind of are living the pain point that get us kind of the most motivated, because it's like, okay, cool, yeah, we're not crazy, like we're not building something that's like I feel like at first when you start, you can kind of be like, yeah, like I see that this is an issue, but like how big of a problem really is this? Like, do other people resonate with this?
For sure.
So yeah, no, that always goes like a super long way.
No, definitely. So would you say, and the next question is, your biggest pet peeve in the audio world, would you say that that's probably it, is the collaborative process as of right now is kind of trash, I guess?
I think that's definitely a big part of it. I think like a broader statement of it is, again, I to me what the creative tools should ultimately be building towards is something that helps get, whatever idea I have in my head onto paper or software or recorded or whatever it is, as quickly as possible. Um, and yeah, I think my biggest pet peeve is when companies that are there to facilitate that process for any number of reasons end up kind of like becoming blockers or getting in the
Yeah.
way, right? So, I mean, it's the same thing with like anyone that has an Android versus an iPhone. Like, that Apple is like very particular about like our things are our things. We're not gonna
Yeah.
let you be compatible with anything else. You're gonna have to buy our charger, our blue
Yeah.
text messages, all these things. Mind you, I'm using a Mac. I have an iPhone. Like, I'm bought into that. But but at the same time, like the audio industry is exactly the same. Like Apple has their own, plug-in like language and all these
Yeah.
things, and then Pro Tools is doing its own thing. All these, so it's like, yeah, again, it's. I think my biggest pet peeve is some of when. Not to say that again, they're not doing incredible things for creators, but when really, I think in a lot of ways the creative process, like the gets kind of left behind. So the
Yeah.
idea that like really we're just here to help you make the music better, not like anything else. I think that gets pushed to the side a lot. And yeah, I think that then manifests itself in ways like not being able to collaborate.
No, for sure, for sure. I agree. So now the next question, and this goes back to the actual software itself, is what stage are you guys in with the software?
Yeah, so we're live in the App Store right now. I could actually, this might be a good time to share
Definitely. Let's show
screen
the
and show some
people.
visuals. Yeah.
So did you hear that, everybody? He's live in the App Store. That means you can go download it. Go download
Yeah,
it.
we're there you go. We're a desktop app, so you can check us out on the Apple App Store, on desktop, or on the Microsoft App Store on Windows. If you look us up on the iPhone or the mobile App Store, we will not come up. um, but yeah, basically what our app. So you see, I think probably here, you can see Ableton and the app, right, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how our app works is, again, we still let you. So this, for anyone that isn't familiar, this itself, what I'm kind of showing here is not our software. This is Ableton. This is one of the digital audio workstations, one of the DAWs. So this is where you would, create all the music. Again, we want you to be working in whatever environment you're already comfortable. So how our app works is it really kind of just sits beside it. So you see up here, we kind of have this toolbar. But really, a lot of our work has been around making our app and our process as unobtrusive as possible. So you could even, again, like we have the full toolbar, but you could really even just kind of shrink it, like it just really kind of keep it out of the way. The idea is you're still working and collaborating mostly in your software. What our app does, you see there's a huge play and pause button here.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, anytime that you hit play, it'll just cue play into the actual software. But any other collaborators that are actively in the session, it'll synchronize basically everyone's project. So this, you treat it a lot like a Zoom room, a chat room. This is where your collaborators would join. You can invite friends, you can send your messages, whatever it is. Obviously, I can only show so much as a single player. So I'll show here real quick this video of it. But basically, like what you're seeing here is the app actually in use. So here's, my collaborator in this case was up in Connecticut. They were using Logic, one of these softwares. I was here in New Orleans using Ableton. But again, the kind of magic behind it is like really our app will synchronize these separate projects, right? So he's
Mm.
able to be building some chords. I'm able to be adding some drums. We're talking through it. Again, like you put, like there isn't this, like what this process would have looked like today, emailing, is maybe, my collaborator Matt would have laid out some chords, emailed them to me. I would have then added some drums, emailed them back.
Yep.
He would have then added the vote. Like in that step, there's probably easily 8 back and forth revisions
Oh
each
yeah.
time. But in this session, we're just talking through it, right? I think what's really cool too is it becomes this very jazz improv like uh environment where like I'm not even, it's not like, okay, your turn, my turn, like a,
Yeah.
chess match or checkers match or whatever. It's kind of like we're both working at the same time, and so I'm now editing my drums based on what I'm hearing the chords that are being laid down are.
That's
And
so dope.
Matt, my collaborator, as he's hearing that I'm adding the drums, he's like, oh, actually maybe I'll change the chord this way, or I'll do it this way, right? So again, like you get ideas that even if you spent days in the studio but working one at a time, just would have never come out, right?
Yeah.
Because they only
So
came
true.
out in that moment because of the way that we were working, right?
Yep.
So yeah, to your question of where we're at, we're in beta, we're on the app store, so anyone can download it for free. That said, we do have a really big update coming out, what we're calling kind of our version 3.0. So really at its core, the project or this startup, this app started as, again, a way for, again, really most simplistically, me to be able to work with my friends, but really artists to be able to collaborate with artists that they already know. But we also wanted to really feel like this social communal space. So the way I could best describe it is, if you and your collaborator that you had, add some vocals in, you already know each other, you already have a project you're working on. That's great. This is a great tool for that. At the same time, we want to create a space where if you have 30 minutes, an hour on a Saturday, and you don't have a project that you're already working on, you can still log on, meet a new collaborator, engage in a new song, a
Yeah.
competition, a
Okay.
challenge, kind of something that feels very. I played a lot of like Xbox growing up, something that feels very like video game like that, right? Where
Okay.
like I wouldn't necessarily always log on knowing, oh, I want to play FIFA or I want to play
Yeah.
this. I would just sometimes log on and be like, let me see what people are up to, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
so we're kind of building that into the app itself. So we want, you to have your collaborators be able to see who's online, be able to quickly get engaged with friends, join your recent studios. We want the studios. So the studios are the actual like collaboration room where that's happening. We
Okay.
want the studios also to feel very like community and membership like. So you have actual members that you can add, you can join as guests. Again, we kind of want it to really feel like you're finding your people through the app, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, and then yeah, and then again, this is just to highlight like this is the actual studio. So by itself, our app doesn't do anything. But then paired with the software, that's where you're actually able to collaborate. You see your collaborators online, all those things.
Heck
And
yeah.
again, and kind of really building some of that social element where you're also able to, if you find someone new, you can kind of quickly get a sense of who they are, maybe send them a message, try to engage. And yeah, and just kind of really, really find that more social element that way.
Damn, I like that. No, I think that looks really cool too. And I like how as soon as you hit play, it started going. So now, and I'm sure this is the case, but just to clarify, so if I'm in Pro Tools, like how you and your buddy were doing the drums and the chords, so he's in his software, you're in yours, and does he have what you have already, or does he have just what he's trying to put into the track?
Yeah, so that's kind of the novelty in our solution and how we're able to do it. Basically, there's been a ton of tools that have tried to work with file conversion, getting all of these different, because, right, we've named Logic, Pro Tools, FL, like there's dozens of these software, right? And so there's companies out there that have tried to, develop ways to kind of merge all these projects together. But again, like the green message in an iPhone group chat when that
Yeah.
one person on Android joins, uh,
Ah.
this, right? Yeah, there's just a bunch of licensing issues. There's a bunch of compatibility issues, just a lot there. And so we kind of set out from the gate and said we don't want to deal with that. We're not going to deal with trying to convert all of these, multiple projects into one single session.
Yeah.
What we do, we call our app middleware. What it means is we literally just sit in between and we kind of work like a crossing guard, right? So we like direct traffic, we facilitate that
Okay.
communication. So when you hit play, in that case, my collaborator had his chords in Logic. Let's say you were adding some vocals in Pro Tools, I had my drums. In each of our respective like projects, we only have what we're adding, right? So I only
Gotcha.
have my
Okay.
drums in my Ableton session. I don't actually have your vocals or the chords. But when we hit play, our app will stream uncompressed, so same quality as if it was coming out of your laptop. The audio from all of the sessions synchronized and with low latency. So what we're hearing, even though I only have the drums on my end, what
Yeah.
I'm hearing is my drums playing in time with the chords, in time with your vocals. And because we're never actually converting or exporting or anything, we're just streaming the audio. That's what allows for that live collaboration. So any changes
Okay.
I make, you're hearing immediately because I'm not having to export it and then,
Yeah.
convert it over to your project or your session. If I'm changing the volume, if I'm adding new drums, if I'm adding a new track, you're hearing that right away. Same thing, if you're recording a new verse, like you're able to hear that right away, but also we're able to hear that as you're recording it, give feedback, maybe make changes, whatever it is.
Okay. Hell yeah. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question is, what is the biggest challenge you guys are facing right now with the software?
Yeah, so up until now, we have been using some third-party apps and tools to kind of handle our audio streaming, some of the communication with the actual DAWs or software, just kind of a lot of those things. Like as a startup, the biggest thing people will say and like learn is like you got to kind of be scrappy to get started, right? Like you don't want to spend a ton of time making this perfect thing before you test it.
Yep.
So that's kind of where our version has been at, is we got something that would be good enough to be able to put into the hands of artists, get some feedback. What that means though is when you first go to download and install the app, and every time you're running a session, it's kind of this process where you're having to install three different applications on top of the application that we're providing you. You're having to make sure all the audio is routed correctly, all of the integration is happening the right way, and so it's just a very onboarding, resource heavy application at the
Yeah.
moment, right? So it works really well if you know it, and we have documentation on the website. But that said, no one wants to go through this 25-30 minute whatever it is setup process the first time. So with this new update, the thing I didn't mention too, we've been working with these developers out of Colombia. So I was born in Colombia, and we got this dev firm out in Colombia now. They're helping us build a plugin as well. So
Nice.
our desktop app will continue running, but then alongside that, you'll have a plugin. For anyone that doesn't know what a plugin is, basically just an app that runs inside of one of these software. So it's how people do effects, on vocals, things like that. So we'll have our own plugin that basically will handle all the audio streaming, all the communication, everything that right now we've been using some third party apps to do. So it makes it a lot more of an out of the box solution. You download the desktop app from the App Store, you download the plugin, log in the first time, and then you're good to go. You never have to worry about it again. You just open it up. You
Let's
don't have to route everything. You don't have to
go.
install everything. This is like, yeah, significant change. And it also just allows us a lot more control over the actual user experience.
For sure.
Because again, right now we're kind of relying on what we can do through these other apps, whereas here, like we have something that we actually built in house, meant to be optimized for this situation.
Nice. Hell yeah, that's dope. That's a major step too. Because
Yeah,
I know when I first went to download it too, I was like, and I'm not very tech savvy to begin with,
yeah,
so I was like, man, this is a lot of terms that I don't
it's a
know,
lot. It's a lot.
and I got to
Yeah,
do this and I got to go here. But then I actually sat down and I did it and I made it through, and it wasn't as long as strenuous as I initially had made it out to be, whatever, right? But again, it's like once I got in there, the setup was easy, getting my studio named and set up and all that stuff, and to navigate it was super easy. So I felt like in the beginning that was probably, once you got over that hump, so to speak, then the rest was cake. And I appreciate that you guys continue to work on that part of it too, because there might be some people who would love and appreciate it, but I'm not going to take time to do all these steps. I'll just
yeah,
keep doing it how I'm doing it if that's the case. You know what I mean? So I think you guys, crossed a major threshold with getting this developer on your side and this plugin to be able to kind of
yeah.
take that portion out of it and make the downloading process a little more simplistic.
Yeah, no, again, it's the furthest thing from the ideal, market ready app that we want. Again, it's great because the core functionality still works. Again, I love it because I know something's going right, because the same friend that I was being in the same room as, not being able to collaborate with, like he'll hit me up at least 2-3 times a week
Yeah.
asking to hop on the app, right? So like so clearly, like there's some functionality there, it's working, like right, it's doing what it initially intended to do. but to your point, like it's funny with so our app went live on the app stores. I mean, it was live beginning of last year, but you could only access it if you got invited. We kind of opened it up for anyone to download in July, and haven't really been doing any marketing or anything. Just kind of wanted to see how it handled under higher traffic. But in that time, we've gotten like over 900 accounts created, and
Damn.
like more than 75% of those find us because we ask a question when you're signing up, like how did you find out about us? More than 75% of those find us either through a Google search or an App Store search, which means
Nice.
these are people that have never heard about us, looking up music collaboration, downloading it. Great sign of demand. But to your point, if I've never heard of this company, I'm looking up music collaboration, and then the first thing I'm met with is this like 10 step,
Yeah.
with each step having like 3, 4 sub step download process. I'm gonna just be like, you know what, I actually I'm good. Like I don't have enough validation that this is actually gonna do what I
No,
want it
for
to do
sure.
to sit here and go through it, right? And so yeah, so again, we've seen a ton of drop off from like we'll have people create an account but then never even actually be able to get in and use the app. And so we knew that was a key point if we were going
Yeah.
to really be able to grow. And yeah, and so again, we're excited to like the plugin's really in its final stages. It's kind of been in development the past couple months, and yeah, just excited to have it out and testing and stuff. So
No, for sure. Hell yeah, that's dope. So now I know you said you've got, you've amassed a pretty decent following of people who have, searched up these apps and stuff and found you guys. But what has the response been from those who have actually gone in and like used it? I mean, what's the feedback been like that?
yeah, again, so we've done a couple of like in-person sessions too, where so we run this like we call it a student ambassador fellowship, or it's really like an internship program at Tulane and Loyola University here in New Orleans. So we've done a couple in-person sessions there. We've done a couple in-person sessions with some studios, and also then just like seeing people use it on Zoom and things like that. I think again the most exciting part is kind of when it first really clicks in your head, like what it's doing. Like the first time you hit play and you're sitting here and your collaborator that's in the same building but in another room or
Yeah.
across the country, you suddenly hear their piano. You're like literally everyone just like laughs. Like it's like a happy, just like, oh shit, like that really just happened.
Hell yeah.
And so yeah, so that's been cool. Obviously, again, there's kinks here and there. I think the biggest other thing is with the current setup, it's a little bit less stable or reliable than we want, for when we're actually in market. So it works really well currently. Again, with the current version, it works kind of like high quality uncompressed audio for about an hour and a half.
Okay.
And then because we're having some what are called like data leaks on the server, the audio quality starts to degrade a little bit. So all that means is you need to kind of like close the studio and reopen a new one.
Okay.
So again, it's not the end of the world. The artists have been fine with it. But again, obviously, just kind of like some kinks here and there, where once we have this app that we want people to really be downloading it, scaling, people to be using in more professional settings, we want kind of just some more, that more consistency. That said, we've had artists like make money through the app, which I think is
Okay.
also super exciting. Like use
Yeah.
it with a client, have them record, have them purchase a beat. So yeah, again, it's cool. I think as a startup, like I said, you really need to make sure before you're spending, all this money, all this time, all this energy building that kind of market ready product, you need to make sure that, okay, the core thing that I think, which is that an app that does this will help facilitate
Yeah.
the creative process. Like, can I check that box in as cheap and quick a way as possible? This version, and really, I mean, there's again, this is the version we're about to release, our version 3.0. We started with like a much more dumbed down version. Um, but yeah, it's been cool. Definitely been getting really great feedback around the core experience itself. It's just a matter of adding some of that reliability to the performance, and then just removing some of those barriers to installation so that we can scale.
Very nice. I like that. That's good. And I think that's the thing too, is like you never, when creating something, even with music, and obviously this software is, on the different spectrum, but it's going to be ever changing. You're always going to find things that you can do better, that you can upgrade, things that work, things that don't work. And so I think it's huge to get, all the feedback that you can, and to have that amount of people that are going and downloading it and even I think even and we just touched on this, but even going and downloading it and saying, "Oh man, all these steps," I think that in itself, and having people drop off, I think that in itself is feedback too, because then it's like, "Hey, we got to
Yeah,
figure out how we can minimize this to make sure it's as seamless as possible and get people in as quickly as possible." And again, I haven't used it as much as I'd like to, and we had this conversation previously, but I think just on the surface and seeing what it's done and the times I have gone into it, I think it's huge. And I
yeah,
definitely plan to get in and mess with it some more so I can give some better feedback. But on the surface, what I've seen, I think it's a game changer, like I said. So I think you guys are definitely onto something. So
yeah.
that being said,
No,
where do you see Dawn in the next 1 to 3 years?
yeah. So, yeah, I think what's really exciting about where we're at now is we're starting to really get into some of those kind of core, more business questions. Like we have a ton of strategy and roadmap around how we plan to actually, market this, get this into the
Okay.
hands of people, all of that. But what's really exciting is again we're in a creative industry, and like the biggest thing we've seen, or like, it's a little cliche of a saying, I guess, but what I've seen is like creative artists or creatives can be really creative about being the creative. So like what I mean by that is like artists will come up with the completely wild ways to like just go about how they make their music. I've seen
Oh yeah.
people on Twitch. I heard about this streamer that like on Twitch would like go and make music and stream, but it's like they would do it in this way where they would mute the audio coming out of their project and just have the people watching the stream be telling them like, oh, move this knob, just for the
Oh,
sake of like, yo, this is a really
okay.
interesting, unique way to do
Yeah,
this.
that's crazy.
So some of those, right, and there's no reason to do that other than just like, oh, that sounds interesting, like I wonder what
Yeah.
that'll like,
No, for
what'll turn
sure.
out of that. So some of those are, kind of just new ways again, because I think what's really exciting about this technology is it's not like a, oh, I'm helping you get from point A to point B a little bit faster. It's literally like I'm helping you do things that you couldn't have done before, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that with that, new creative processes, new collaborative workflows, new things are going to kind of emerge and evolve. Um, Really, where see Dawn going in the next like year to 3 years, is we're really focused on kind of bridging this gap between like the aspiring professionals, so people that, because of where they live, because of they're not using, Pro Tools or some of the industry standard tools because they don't have the connections, just kind of are aspiring to break into the industry but haven't been able to take that step. And we want to bridge that kind of segment of artists with the actual established professional industry. So we
Okay.
also work a lot with, again, like established recording studios. We've worked a lot with the classic studios up in Chicago. We've worked a lot with some studios here in New Orleans, kind of just bridging some of those gaps. And so, yeah, I mean, truthfully, like, I think what would be most exciting for Don is to just see it as a tool where you're seeing kind of left and right across the country, internationally, just like things like songwriting camps and producer
Yeah.
camps, and just like people kind of really getting back to the joy of like making music for the sake of making music. If you end up with an album, you end up with a project, you end up with a mixtape, like whatever it is, like that's great.
Yeah.
I think that enhancing the way that people can, before that final stage, kind of just be creating the actual music itself and doing that more collaboratively, more remotely, all of those things. Yeah, I think that's where I'm most excited about seeing it go in the next few years.
Definitely. No, and I definitely think you guys have the tools. You definitely got the software to, it speaks for itself. And I think now with what you guys are working on and the updates you have planned and this plug-in, I definitely think that it's something that'll help boost you guys and shoot you guys up to the top over the course of the next few years. So definitely excited to see the growth and where you guys go from here. So real quick, I want to have you shout out the rest of the Dawn Audio team. I know you're the man with the plan, but I also know that you got some busy professionals working alongside you to help get this thing off the ground. So just take a second to shout out the squad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and truthfully, like, would not be anywhere near to where we are without them. Like, so currently the current co-founder is myself. Again, I'm kind of filling that CEO role. Um, Leo is our CTO, Leo Simononic. He was one of the people originally in the class project. He, like I said, I have a computational engineering background. I've done some coding. I did some of the early coding, but he's the one that like has built, 95+% of the application,
Okay.
done all of the server stuff. So literally wouldn't have an app without him. Um, and then Mandy Ortiz, she joined our team a year ago now, last February. She's our chief strategy officer and our other co-founder. She has a background in like branding, marketing, worked with
Okay.
Ogilvy. So she's kind of come into, again, we were a team of really just like engineers trying to build a business, kind of give some more of that branding, strategy, marketing side of things to the team. So she's been great building out like partnerships, like just yeah, laying down a lot of the groundwork. She also runs kind of our larger team. She runs our this student ambassador fellowship. A quick shout out there it is, and just kind of pay respect. It is so it's called our Sam Fellowship. It's named after our late co-founder. So one of our original co-founders, he was part of the original class project. His name was Sam Matluck. He had passed away in fall September of 2022. And so kind of just because of who he was, because of kind of what he stood for, and like really being someone that was centered and around developing your passion and kind of bridging that gap, we kind of built this fellowship where we worked again with students, student interns, kind of aligning the skills they're building, putting them into an industry that they're interested
Okay.
in and passionate about. And so Mandy like runs that. So we have through that 4 ambassadors or fellows for this semester. They're Matt Beyer, Paul V. Pradhan, Graham Dennis, and Josh Geske. They're all incredible, amazing. Really excited about the work they're doing. And then our dev team out in Colombia, their firm's called Code Branch. Um, I'm actually about to pop over to Colombia this next week to visit
Nice.
some family. Like I said, I'm from there. I'm going to meet with them in person for the first time. They're also helping outside of even just coding. They're musicians themselves. So
Okay.
they've been a tremendous help, and they're also helping facilitate some intros with some of the people that are connected to like Maluma's producers and just kind of some
Wow.
huge like Latin artists and stuff out there.
Nice, man.
So yeah, so kind of just really have this massive network. I mean, a huge number of advisors as well behind us. And yeah, I mean, again, just kind of really was unpacking with the team, kind of kicking off this year. Like, really feels like we have this like, I mean, company behind us. Like, it's not just
Yeah.
a couple of us, a handful of us, like working on a class project anymore.
For sure. That's dope. Shout out to Squad at Don Audio and everybody who's
Yeah,
involved. Working
for
hard,
real.
and I love to see it. That's dope, though. Well, good for you guys, man. I'm excited again to see where the growth goes, and it seems like you got a solid team behind you, and I know that you guys are definitely working hard and making sure us creatives have the things that we need to continue to be successful and make our music and whatnot. So, where can everybody find? You're obviously they can go to the app store to get the app, but as far as like your socials to keep up and find out about new updates and all that stuff, where can they find you guys and all that information?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram at Dawn, DAWN dot audio. Um, our website is site dot dawn dash like hyphen audio.com. If you look up Dawn Audio or Google it, it'll definitely come up as kind of one of the top results. Yeah, those are kind of our main 2 channels. We do have a YouTube where we post. We run this Stu Side Chat series, which Charlie is actually featured on for one of
Hey,
the
let's go.
episodes, where we interview artists, talk about the creative process. So that's on our YouTube as well, just under Dawn Audio. Um, yeah, those are kind of the main channels we've got kind of running at the moment.
Perfect. So yeah, y'all make sure y'all go check them out. Subscribe to that YouTube. Follow them on Instagram, and also more importantly, download the app, sign up, go through the steps to get it downloaded, collaborate with your friends, give some feedback, be a part of Don Audio as they continue to build and we know work on this software for all of us together. I think it's huge. Again, I think it's a game changer. And so lastly, before we let Mr. Diego go on his way, we are going to put him through our rapid fire questions, which is a little fun segment we do with all of our guests just to help the people, get to know them better, but also keep things a little fun and interesting. We just went through this whole spiel about the software and kind of geeked out a little bit. So let's get to know the man real quick. So I'll just go through each question and you just answer, the first thing that comes to mind, whatever it may be, and then we'll go ahead and conclude after that.
Dude.
So the first question is, what is your favorite genre of music?
Ooh. Uh, Growing up, definitely classic rock. More recently, it's got to be like classic New York hip hop.
Okay. Okay, I feel that. I like that. Now the big this and I got to the big question early. What is your favorite DAW?
What is my favorite DAW? Ooh, man. Uh, I gotta go Ableton. I started with
Okay.
Logic, made the switch over, and honestly, at this point, I use Logic fairly rarely, so it has to be Ableton.
Okay. No, no, just a side note real quick. I think it's so funny you hear people like get into these arguments about which DAW is better, and it's like whichever one works better for you, you know what
Honestly,
I
right,
mean?
right.
Like
No,
it's
literally.
cool to have a favorite one. Like obviously Pro Tools isn't ideal to make beats. And I don't make beats a lot, but I go to Logic for that because of the sounds and the instruments that they have. But Pro Tools I do everything else for. I record, I edit, everything else is done in Pro Tools. So it's funny that people get in those crazy arguments, but I've heard a lot of good things about Ableton, so I can understand that's why
Yeah,
that's your choice.
yeah. No,
What
definitely.
is your
The DAW wars are real for sure.
They are. It's crazy. It's so crazy. So what is your favorite season of the year?
Living in New Orleans now, it's definitely the spring. It's
Okay.
festival season. It's, sometimes Mardi Gras falls in there. And also the summer is just unbearable here. But yeah.
For sure. So all right. If you were stuck on a deserted island, what five people would you bring?
I include my family there, like my
Of
immediate family.
course.
So my parents, my sister. Uh, we do a lot of like playing board games and stuff and like cards and stuff. So I feel like we find enough to do. Uh,
Yeah.
One of my good friends, like childhood friends, he's really close to my family as well. He'll like often go on like trips with us and stuff. So I feel like we'd probably include him. His name's John. And then probably
Shout out
include my
John.
friend. Yeah, shout out John. And then probably include my friend Cordell, who's this dude that I keep talking about that uses FL, that I make
Okay.
music with a ton. So
Shout out Cordell, FL guy. I like it.
yeah,
All right. Now, who is your celebrity crush?
my celebrity crush. It's funny, I thought about this. I think I'm gonna go with these aren't like celebrities in the public side, but Instagram wise and producer wise, definitely celebrities. I think
Okay.
there's yeah, I'm gonna go with Lil CC, who I think is featured on some like actually very popular and crazy tracks, but she's a producer. And then there's this other producer who I follow now, names like 99 Machiavelli or something like that.
Okay.
Both, I mean, incredibly talented as well, but yeah, definitely a bit of a producer celebrity crush there.
Okay. I think I may have heard of CC. I don't think I've heard of the other one. So, but I'll have to check them both out just to be sure and
Yeah, yeah.
see what kind of production they got going on. Okay. Okay. I see you. So, when is your favorite time of day to create?
Uh, I think most days it ends up being like start at like 10:30, 11 p.m. And then
Okay.
next thing I realize it's like 3:30 a.m. and I got work the next day and I'm like, damn. Um, but that does end up just being when I have time during most days.
Yeah.
That said, I do love when I have like the very rare, random Sunday or Saturday that I wake up and I'm like, oh, I actually don't have anything to do today. I might cancel whatever plans we have going on, and just like lock in
For
and
sure.
start at like, 11 a.m. And next thing I know, it's like 8 p.m. and I haven't eaten anything. So
Hell yeah. And those are the best too, where it's like, I don't got shit going on.
yeah.
They wanted to hang out tonight, but okay. No, no, I feel that too. I second that. All right. And last question. And I think you may have answered this earlier, but unknowingly, but I'll ask it again anyways. Mac or Windows? Are you an Apple or a
Oh,
Microsoft guy?
no, definitely Mac, Apple guy. Again, I think same thing with the DAWs. It's just a matter of like what you're familiar with.
No,
And
for
I've
sure.
for the longest I can remember been using Apple products, so it'd be a tough switch at this point.
Okay, no, for sure. I remember when I used to have an Android phone, and then I got like the Apple 4 when it came out, and then I went back to Android, and I'm like, what the hell? What is this? This is all so
Yeah,
foreign to me.
you're
And
right,
I'm like, ah, right,
right.
right back to Apple. To Apple we go. But then in school too, like I've used Windows laptops, but in school they taught us strictly off of Macs, and so now sometimes I'll go back to a Windows. I'm like, man, this is a little different. But
Yeah,
it's just having been using Mac for the 9 10 months I was in school, and only using it the months I've been out. So, but again, yeah, like you said, preference. So that's cool.
yeah, yeah.
Well, shoot, man, Diego, I appreciate, as I'm sure the viewers and listeners do, we appreciate your time and you hopping on and filling us in on Don Audio and what it's about, what you guys are building, what you're creating. Again, I personally think it's a game changer. I think once you guys really get things going and get some traction, it's gonna be a huge deal in the industry. So I can definitely appreciate it. And I think it just like you said, it just saves so much time and energy and just makes for a better collaboration space as a whole. So again, we thank you for your time. And if you have anything else to add, feel free. Otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and hang it up.
No, no, just yeah. Shout out Charlie and Candace and the whole IAC team and lifestyle brand and yeah, no, thank y'all for having me.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. And y'all go make sure to follow Don Audio on Instagram and YouTube and get that software. And we're going to go ahead and hang it up. Charlie Hustle, we out.